Uh, I want to start my questions by saying to Nicole, thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing your story. And I'm sorry that you've had to endure, as the mother of a victim, what you've had to endure in your family. And I think part of the hope, the aim of this legislation is to make sure that other people don't have to go through that. But thank you for being an advocate and for being here. The way I see it, this legislation is really simple. It's really simple. It says that if these tech companies want the broad blanket protections of Section 230, and make no mistake, Section 230 is how these companies have gotten big, it's how they've gotten powerful, it's how they've gotten rich. They've done it with this special immunity that the federal government has given them. So if they want that, then they're going to have to actually do something for it. They're going to actually have to take some steps to protect our children online. So people like Nicole, parents like Nicole, I say this as a father myself of two small boys, don't have to go through what your family went through. They're going to have to actually, as the title says, earn it. And it's interesting to watch these tech companies and their fleets of lobbyists in this building and their many dark money groups out there scream that the sky is falling and the internet is going to break. We heard all these same arguments with Sesta Fosta. All the same. In fact, it's almost, sometimes the lines are repeated verbatim. You can just read the same script over and over. Last time I looked, the internet was still working, even after Sesta Fosta. And in fact, it's a better place now that we have taken on human trafficking online. And we can make it a better place by taking on child exploitation online. And it is not too much to ask for these big tech companies to do their part in order to earn this blanket immunity that they have enjoyed as a gift from this government for so long. And Professor Leary, I think you very ably have pointed out that the original bargain, if you will, to the tech companies was that they were supposed to, in turn for moderating certain content, they were supposed to then get this Section 230 immunity. But of course, the content they were originally supposed to moderate is now gone. The Supreme Court struck that part down, so they've had basically free immunity for all of these years, and they've used it to their own purposes. So my message on this is to all of those tech companies out there who have been saying for years now that you can't possibly touch Section 230, that if you do that, you will end the internet as we know it. This is a bipartisan bill with bipartisan support, and the days of this Congress giving out free stuff to big tech without asking or expecting anything in return are coming to an end. They are coming to an end. And rightly so, because the people of this country and the parents of this country are demanding it. And that's exactly how it should be. Ms. Banker, let me come to you. I thought I heard you say to Senator Lee, and maybe I misheard you. I thought I heard you say that part of your opposition to this bill is it would make it too hard to prosecute child abusers. Did I hear you right?
Yes, Senator.
And why is that? I mean, so you're telling me that you're opposed to a bill that is to crack down, give law enforcement potentially new tools to crack down on child sexual exploitative material because it would actually be a gift to those who are committing the exploitation? I mean, is that the logic? Walk me through that.
Absolutely. Right now, there are numerous criminal defendants who have filed motions to suppress the evidence of their crimes that were detected through the proactive efforts of IA member companies. The concern we have is that today, when the companies go to court and explain in those suppression hearings how it is that they came to report this material, what they say is that it was completely independent as a decision, and it was completely voluntary.
Are you very aware of any court that's actually suppressed any evidence on these grounds?
No, because the companies are saying this was independent. This is a voluntary decision that we made. Our concern is that...
Don't you think there's a little bit of tension between arguing that this is actually going to make it too difficult to prosecute child abusers, essentially, and saying what so many of your members have said, that this gives too many tools to prosecutors, that this is a giveaway to prosecutors? For instance, here's a statement from one tech group. It says that the Earn It Act would give DOJ prosecutors a shortcut, would present Congress with legal mandates that lawmakers would never pass on their own. That doesn't sound like something that is worried about being too lenient to child abusers. It sounds like they're worried that it's going to give law enforcement too many tools. So, I mean, which is it?
Well, I'm not familiar with the statement that you're reading,
Let me
Senator
ask you
Hawley.
then, let me ask you just about whether you think that this is right. Is your view that the Earn It Act would give DOJ a shortcut and present Congress with legal mandates that we would be obliged to adopt? Because I've read that criticism in a lot of places, that it's whatever the commission says is going to automatically be enacted. Is that your understanding of this bill?
My understanding of the bill is that it contains what would be an expedited approval process for Congress to approve best practices submitted by the Attorney General after approving the commission's work.
But it is an approval process, right? In other words, it has to go through the normal presentment process. Congress has to actually vote on it. It's not automatic. Isn't that right?
Yes.
And so the commission makes recommendations. They're an advisory panel, but this Congress has the ability to adopt them or not adopt them. Is that right?
Yes.
Let me ask you about encryption. Senator Blumenthal touched on this. I've also heard it said, widely repeated in some of these tech groups, usually funded, I might add, by our usual friends, Facebook, Google. They say things like, if the AG wants to ban encryption, there's no way to stop it. Do you agree with that? Do you think that's what this bill does, is bans encryption?
I think it's difficult to predict given the
But do you think this bill bans encryption?
I do not believe the bill bans encryption. What I believe the bill does is it creates a government-led commission that is tasked with addressing a broad range of matters, and that encryption and its impact could very well come up within the scope of the matters that the commission is charged with addressing.
Here's what it sounds like to me, is that we've got our friends in the big tech world who will grasp at any straw to oppose this bill. Either it's too prosecution friendly, or no, it's not prosecution friendly enough because it's going to make prosecutions tougher. Either it's going to undermine privacy, or maybe it's going to make privacy too tough so that prosecutors can't go after these people. I mean, it's just, the logic doesn't really hold. And I will say, I think that it's a little bit rich to hear from the big tech companies, not you personally, Ms. Banker, but some of these companies who say that privacy now is such a high value after they have spent years building a business model that takes our data without telling us, sells it without our consent, monetizes it, and we get nothing for it. So, like Senator Blumenthal, I'm a great advocate of end-to-end encryption. I think that end-to-end encryption must be able to exist with robust law enforcement, and I'm not going to support anything that does not protect the integrity of encryption for users. I can promise you that. But we've got to find a way to be able to protect children online, and I think this bill is a great step forward.